Welcome everybody to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and today what we're going to be discussing is that the second wave of free agency, at least as far as I am concerned, it has finally started. So, as you are listening to this, just the other day, Andrew Norwell was released by the Washington Commanders, and just for anybody who is not sure who Andrew Norwell is a former All-Pro guard who is now looking for a new home after the Washington Commanders finally decided that his contract just wasn't worth it. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about a little bit about free agency one more time here because especially with cuts like this coming, now is when other NFL teams are starting to get an idea of who they want to stick around, who they really feel is going to be part of their future, and what ultimately they are going to decide is going to be the state of their team moving forward. And Andrew Norwell, at 31 years of age, he's a 9-year veteran. They signed him to a 2-year, $10 million contract last season, and they decided that after one, they have had more than enough of his assistance. So, in releasing him, the Commanders are saving about $4.3 million in cap space, and they have less than $1 million in actual dead cap. So about $700,000, those numbers are per over the cap. And I'm going to go ahead and discuss the concept of Andrew Norwell possibly joining the Dolphins. Not that they've actually made any indication that they are interested in him at the current moment, but you never know. There's always a possibility that somebody like an Andrew Norwell could be potentially an answer to the Miami Dolphins offensive line question, which I understand the Miami Dolphins don't really see it as much of a question, but we as Dolphins fans are always looking at this offensive line kind of with a raised eyebrow, assuming that things are going to go sour when we least expect it. But before that, really quick, and before we get too much further into it, just want to go ahead and mention that this show is brought to you, as always, by our good friends over at You Brake Wheel Fix. You Brake Wheel Fix is a complete automotive wheel solution. Ever parked too close to the sidewalk curb? You Brake Wheel Fix specializes in the repair of damaged wheels from bends, cracks, and curb rash. Or maybe your wheels are faded or peeling. You don't need to replace them, as You Brake Wheel Fix can refinish them to like new. Offering complete refinish options through powder coating, machining, and polishing, You Brake Wheel Fix is the answer to all of your wheel needs. And if you're just looking to give your ride a new look, You Brake Wheel Fix also offers many car customizing options, such as new custom wheels and tires from your favorite brands, performance upgrades, window tinting, and suspension modifications. Located just south of Aventura, you can reach Mark and his staff at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. They're really active on all social media platforms at You Brake Wheel Fix, so shoot them a DM on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, or as it is now known, X, but we're still all going to call it Twitter, let's be real, and we'll get an estimate in just minutes. So don't delay, go to You Brake Wheel Fix and start customizing your ride to show off your Dolphins fandom today. This show is also brought to you by PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is a revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares over there, special Taco Tuesday promos, which you may have just missed out on, but make sure they're coming right around next week, so make sure you catch them. And also Flex Friday specials coming up, where you can get your money back if you lose, or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. With offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use that promo code FIVE, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code FIVE, F-I-V-E. Go to PrizePicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and discuss this free agent situation. So just to recap, everybody knows Andrew Norwell. This is a guy who, as a guard, he's actually become one of the household names of offensive linemen. And I get it, offensive linemen are not exactly somebody that you just know off the top of your head. Maybe some guys like a Teron Armstead or a Trent Williams or somebody along those lines, those kinds of players you would recognize immediately. But as far as guards go, Andrew Norwell is probably one of the most well-known ones. Earlier in his career, he was probably one of the best guards in the NFL back when he was drafted by the Carolina Panthers. Then he went to Jacksonville in 2018. He was still good then, but gradually as time has passed, at least according to Pro Football Focus, again, always have a grain of salt with those, but this is a really good quick way to kind of get an idea of how his play is being perceived. Just over time, his ability to do run blocking, his pass blocking, and last year in 2022, when he first got to the Washington Commanders, that was probably his worst year to date as far as his player grades go. He played in a total of 16 games last season, so he only missed one. He only missed one game all year, and again, the guy is 31 years old, and he won't be 32 until October. So it's not like he's an offensive lineman who is gone out to pasture. He's not something like a Jason Peters who is already in his 40s. And mind you, again, I have to give respect to Jason Peters because even in his 40s, which is when most NFL players are kind of being looked at as being accused of just desperately hanging on to the dream, refusing to hang up the cleats, Jason Peters has continued to play at a high level. And Andrew Norwell, as far as players who are available, there is a distinct possibility that maybe Andrew Norwell isn't ready to play yet. Maybe he's got something going on with him that's keeping him from being ready. According to reports, before Andrew Norwell could be released, obviously he had to be able to pass a physical. It was an elbow injury, and it looks like he passed that physical because now he's officially looking for a new home. And something that's very interesting to me, because I wanted to go ahead and bring attention to this. There's another guard who is still on the free agent market, and he was actually teammates with Andrew Norwell in Carolina, and he was actually one of the best players on that team as well on the offensive line, and that's Try Turner. Very interesting to me that both of these former guards were some of the best in the business during their younger years, and now all of a sudden their ability to play has fallen off a cliff. Now granted, Andrew Norwell was dealing with injuries all season long, but he played 16 games. Try Turner only played in 12 games, and he wasn't particularly great there either. As far as Pro Football Focus is concerned, again, I keep referring back to it simply because that's the only reference I have right now. To be able to watch all their games in one sitting is going to take an extremely long amount of time. So I'm sure that Hussam Patel of the Scouting Combine, I'm sure he'd be able to assist. So make sure you hit him up on Twitter, by the way. It's at Hussam Patel. But besides that, according to Pro Football Focus, last season with the Washington Commanders was actually his second worst year of his career. The absolute worst one was back in 2020 with the Los Angeles Chargers, and with that he only played a total of 536 snaps. So injuries were a huge problem for Try Turner. But this is where I'm getting at here, folks. I really feel like at this point, if I am the Miami Dolphins and I am looking at this free agent situation, I am looking around trying to see where I can spend maybe some spare cash, I would probably look at both Andrew Norwell and Try Turner to try to see if I could shore up the guard position. And if push comes to shove, I just want to be able to make sure that my Super Bowl run is absolutely safe. And I understand, once again, that the Miami Dolphins do not see this offensive line issue as an issue at all. They are looking at the offensive line and saying that they have young bucks and very cheap options in veterans like Isaiah Wynn and Cedric Ogbuehi, and they're looking at this whole thing and saying, yeah, that should just about cover it. We're going to go ahead and assume that guys like Dan Feeney, they'll be able to take care of the guard position, and we'll just have to hope and pray that the right tackle position is good to go with Austin Jackson. I do not have that much faith in Austin Jackson. I was the one trying to give him the benefit of the doubt when I saw those few snaps against the New England Patriots in the opening game of the season. But by no means am I going to sit here and say that somehow Austin Jackson is just the answer at right tackle. I refuse to give him that much credit. I honestly would still think that Kendall Lamb might actually have more to offer than Austin Jackson. I could be wrong. Maybe Butch Berry is truly the answer for the offensive line coach. Maybe he is the guy who can wake up Austin Jackson. Although I will say, we talked about this on a previous show. Just hearing how they talked about him, talking about how willing he was and how open he was to learning and getting better at his craft. That's this offseason that they were saying that. Now, if you're going to tell me what is the best praise that you can give an offensive lineman, I would say something along the lines of he's gotten so much stronger. His footwork has improved dramatically. His hands are much more coordinated and finessed. The best thing that you can tell me about Austin Jackson right now is that he's open to learning. We're all open to learning. That doesn't mean we're good at something. My fiance is a terrific artist, and I will always brag about her for that. But as far as I'm willing to learn from her how to draw, but that doesn't mean that I'm good at it. I can't draw stick figures to save my life, and she'd probably agree with me on that. But that doesn't mean that Austin Jackson? Okay. So are we learning how to play football all over again? I really hope that's not the case, because if that's the best you can come up with, and again, I'm paraphrasing Butch Berry there. The exact quote, I would have to go back and look it up. But if the best thing you can tell me is that Austin Jackson is open to learning and that he's very open to new ways of instruction or something along those lines, I'm sorry. That doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence that this guy's going to be all that great. So forgive me if I'm looking at this offensive line situation and just saying, you know what? The second wave of free agency has started. A lot of these older veterans, some of these maybe injured veterans, they're getting cut and they're going to be looking for a new home. Maybe we should start looking at possibly opening the doors to new possibilities. Maybe if we can shore up the guard position, we can open up a true free-for-all for the guard, for the right tackle spot, and basically make it that whoever does the best job out of all of y'all is the one who's going to be the starting right tackle in 2023. You get Andrew Norwell or Try Turner, and they do good at left guard. Just good. Never mind great. I just want good at this point. I want somebody who I can look at and say, you're good enough for me to say I can trust you on any opening Sunday. I don't want to have to wonder if today's going to be a good day for you or a bad day for you. And I understand that after last season, Andrew Norwell and Try Turner do not exactly give that level of confidence. But I trust them more than I trust the likes of a Liam Eichenberg at left guard. I trust them more than I trust the likes of a Robert Jones at left guard. Because at least with those two guys, I know that they've played at all pro levels at guard. So consider that for a moment. Now, on to new business as far as free agency goes. There was an interview with Rich Eisen with Dalvin Cook. The Dalvin Cook situation continues to evolve, man. So recently, Dalvin Cook went on to the Rich Eisen show, and he did a full interview with him. And he basically said straight up that the Miami Dolphins have not actually given him any kind of offer, which kind of spits in the face of all the other reports that we've been hearing that Dalvin Cook actually does have an offer on the table from the Miami Dolphins. So there are two options here. One, all these reports are wrong, and the Miami Dolphins actually did not offer anything to Dalvin Cook, in which case I would say that Mike McDaniel really does want to give Devon Achane any and all opportunities to prove that he's worth being the starting running back, or they're just that confident that Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson as a tandem can get the job done in lieu of Dalvin Cook's presence, or Dalvin Cook is lying, and he's trying to leverage as much as he humanly can to try to get the most money that he possibly can. I don't think that the Miami Dolphins are going to just not give him an offer if he has said openly, which according to his trainer anyway, he wants to go back to Miami. Nick Hicks has said openly several times he would like to go back to Miami. Now, I understand that Nick Hicks is not his agent. Nick Hicks is not some type of NFL insider. He just knows these players from the fact that he trains them on a regular basis. And Dalvin Cook, being a Florida boy, is somebody who I think would want to go to Miami. He did say that the AFC East teams are a very strong possibility for him to end up signing at the end of the day. That's Dalvin Cook saying that during the Rich Eisen interview. Okay, fine. But to say that the Dolphins have not offered you anything at all, that doesn't seem... After all this time, why would you wait so long to refute that you haven't received an offer? Or, and I'm not going to say that this is what he means, but let's just say that maybe the Dolphins did offer him something and he does not see it as a serious offer. Thus, the Dolphins did not offer him anything. It's like that old line in Star Trek where the bartender told Cyrano Jones, "That's my offer." "No, that's a joke," says Cyrano Jones. So maybe he doesn't really see it as a legitimate offer. If that's the case, then the Dolphins' offer would be lower than we all thought it was, but that is consistent with the current state of the running back position. The NFL running backs did not get on a Zoom meeting just to discuss how upset they were that they were not getting money. They were trying to come up with a solution that would allow them to make the money that they feel that they are deserving of. But again, the problem is, and I know that it's unfair, I'm well aware of how unfair it is for these running backs to get paid so cheaply, because they put their bodies on the line just like any other wide receiver or tight end or offensive lineman or even kickers, man. There are a lot of people saying that even kickers are getting paid more than running backs these days. And in the case of some guys like a Justin Tucker, yeah, that's true, but just for the sake of argument, because some people were saying that kickers are getting paid more on average than NFL running backs, keep in mind there's a lot more running backs in the NFL than there are kickers, okay? So there's like 3 or 4 running backs per team, and a lot of them are on super cheap rookie contracts or undrafted contracts. And then there's one kicker on each team, and usually they have been signed because they are good at what they do. Jason Sanders, Justin Tucker, guys like that, they're getting paid because they are proven, well, semi-proven, because Jason Sanders had an off year, but they are commodities that they were re-signed to contracts because the teams wanted to keep them around because they were steady and they were always consistent with their kicks. And that's important in this league. You need somebody who can kick those field goals. You don't think Justin Tucker doesn't make a fortune because he almost never misses and he can kick from 70 yards out? He's the best kicker in the NFL as far as I'm concerned. All due respect to Jason Sanders, Justin Tucker is that guy. So, the situation with the running back position, Dalvin Cook is trying to get as much leverage as he possibly can because he knows that it's very unlikely he's going to get a massive payday. And all these other running backs, Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, all these guys who, honestly, I believe have earned that second contract with somebody. I feel like that it's severely unfair that they're not getting paid what I believe that they are worth. The running back position is severely undervalued, and I understand that it's unfair. But on the other hand, there are just so many running backs who have the potential to absolutely light up the NFL. We just drafted one. Devon Achane has the potential to become an incredibly explosive player for the Miami Dolphins. And by the way, I'm still trying to get used to saying Devon Achane. I've been saying Achane all this time. I'm trying to get used to it. It's Devon Achane. I apologize. But the Dalvin Cook situation continues to evolve, and we will see if the Dolphins actually end up signing him. We'll see if anybody signs him, because if he's going to hang on tight for what he feels is a fair contract, he and a lot of other NFL running backs are going to be left out in the cold pretty darn quick. One last thing before we go. I'm starting to see a lot of XFL and USFL football players starting to get signed now they're eligible to be signed. And a lot of veteran free agents of the NFL are getting signed as well. Former Steelers cornerback Arthur Mallett is signing with the Baltimore Ravens. There are other guys, Jay Sternberger, who was with the USFL. He was the star tight end. He's going to be signing with Buffalo because that's just what Buffalo needs, more tight ends. They don't have enough already with Dawson Knox and then their draft pick that they picked up. Dalton Kincaid, who is probably considered one of the best prospects in the draft as far as the tight end position. You get the idea that Josh Allen really wants a good tight end. So they're pulling out all the stops for him. Now, I still think that Reuben Foster deserves at least a workout with this team. If we're going to be talking about USFL, XFL, former NFL players looking for a new home, I think that he deserves a spot. I don't think he's going to get it. I wouldn't mind bringing in Ndamukong Suh. There are so many players that I would like to bring in. But at the end of the day, what we really have to figure out is when are we going to sign our incoming free agents. Christian Wilkins needs a new contract. Connor Williams, he's going to report to training camp, which is great. But he needs a new contract. And Zach Sealer needs a new contract. Are you going to be able to pay them all? Who's going to walk? That's the question that the Dolphins have to ask themselves. And quite frankly, if it's up to me, and it's a difficult decision to make, but I would sign Christian Wilkins and I would sign Connor Williams because that offensive line is too important to just let fall by the wayside. As for Christian Wilkins, he's the heart and soul of the defense. I still believe that with all my heart and soul. And as for Zach Sealer, as good as he is, as incredible as he is, I feel like it's going to be easier to find another good defensive tackle than it will be to find a good offensive lineman, especially if Chris Greer is the one doing the picking. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. If you haven't already done so, make sure you check out You Brake Wheel Fix if you want to give your ride a new look, or if you just need to get your wheels fixed up. You can reach out to them at 305-748-0112 or online at youbrakewheelfix.com. You can reach out to them on Twitter. Yes, I said Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, all sorts of social media platforms. And of course, go to youbreakwheelfix.com to get an estimate in just minutes. And go to prizepicks.com, use that promo code FIVE, that's FIVE, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. All you have to do is just choose whether a player is going to get more or less than their projected stat. It's that easy. Use your fantasy sports knowledge and start winning some extra cash. We will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Fins Nation.